How do you approach building trust and maintaining it over years?
Yeah, I don't think I'm good.
He doesn't want to talk about it because he knows he messed up in the beginning.
I'm kidding. Welcome, guys, to our very, very first podcast episode. This podcast is called the Unhinged Marriage Podcast with my beautiful co-host, my wife. She's all laughing already. This is the first time, so I give her a break. She's never really been on a podcast. But we've been wanting to do this podcast for such a very long time. And last year was crazy. I was traveling all over the place. We were both traveling all over the place, so we didn't really have a lot of time. But we've always wanted to do a podcast like this. And this year, 2025, we finally pulled the trigger and we are finally doing it. So this is our very first.
We did it.
Yeah, this is our very first podcast. So so this podcast is pretty much about our relationship and how we grew as a couple. We've been together for 8 years, which is a long time.
That's a really long time.
Yeah, a lot of couples don't really last that long, to be honest, in this day and age. But we've been together for 8 years, married for 2 years, going on to 3 years. I'm pretty sure I'm right?
Yeah, you remember.
Right? Yeah, we'll talk about that, guys. But yeah, guys, so we're just going to talk about a little bit of our relationship and how we built our relationship over time, the ups and downs. The reason why it's called the Unhinged Marriage podcast is because we literally leave nothing out. We're literally talking about the raw of our relationship and how the ups and downs, the struggles, the happy moments, the sad moments, the crying moments.
There has been a lot of crying.
A lot.
We will get to that too.
A lot. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And as well as we're going to want to also get people on the podcast, whether it's a married couple, whether it's an older married couple who's been together for years and years, or very newlyweds, single people who are dating. We would love to have you guys on our podcast as well. So if you are interested, feel free to DM me or my wife. We'll put our Instagram handles at the bottom. They'll show somewhere around here, but once we do all the production. But yeah, if you guys are interested in jumping on the podcast, we would love to have you guys talk same thing about relationship and like how your experience with relationship and how you guys built your guys' relationship, or if you're single, your crazy single days and experiences that you've gone through. So we're going to go a little bit about ourselves. So we were both born here in Santa Barbara, California. We both went to the same junior high and the same high school. We didn't know each other, but
technically, I didn't know him. He had a crush on me, but that's a whole nother story that we will get into as well when we talk about our pasts and how we came to be.
Yeah, it was so pretty much. Just to summarize it, she was Miss Popular, and I was a little nerdy, chubby kid. So. Y'all, it's never for all you nerdy kids out there and, chubby kids out there, it's like you can always get the dream girl that you want. It's just, you just got to work on yourself first. So that's kind of what I did. But, yeah, we were both born and raised here in Santa Barbara, and we actually didn't meet until college. She was going to UCSB, I believe, and I was in SBCC. And that's kind of where we started, where we crossed paths through a mutual friend of ours. And then from there, I mean, started dating, and the rest was history,
Yeah, our relationship started interestingly. It's not like a normal, we know the exact date we got together. We've had our ups and downs, our breakups, but I mean, it was a lovely ride, and that's why we're here, because we want to really explain how we overcame so many obstacles and how we're here and how we're able to be best friends and lovers and husband and wife. So yeah.
And how we'll continue to grow for years and years to come. Because of
Hopefully.
course, yeah, no, we will. But yeah, we'll continue to grow for years and years to come. And how we kind of went through the motions of everything. But we do have a list of questions, of common questions that we kind of found online that most people ask and stuff. So if you want to pull that out, and we want to.
Let's see. So one thing that I think we have almost mastered is dealing with conflict without letting it damage our relationship. I know myself from experience before Hido, I didn't have the best communication with those who I dated or those I was in a relationship with. It was always a huge argument with cursing, and somebody always had to win. And if they didn't, it would just be a huge fight. And I know with us, if something bothers us, we are not afraid to just be like, hey, I didn't think what you said was appropriate or that was hurtful, and we actually just have a conversation. We don't hold it in, we don't argue about it. We also don't belittle each other when we're having these conversations. And we've learned that at the end of the day, like for me, I just want to be heard and acknowledged and know that he understood why that hurt me, and just to make sure he doesn't do it again, because obviously nobody likes to repeat themselves and have the same argument. So we try our best to learn why we did what we did and how we can be better about it, because we try to just move forward. We don't hold things against us. We don't bring back any arguments from the past. I don't have a little book that says on February 15, you did this at 10 o'clock. Like, we don't do any of that. We think that's just not necessary and not needed in a relationship.
Yeah, and for more context, we came from two different worlds. She grew up completely different to how I grew up. I grew up with family, always being around and stuff, and I always had somebody there for me. And on the other side, she pretty much didn't. In the beginning, she did, but as she grew older, she didn't. So the relationships that she went through were very different. She didn't really learn from her parents or from people that would teach her at a younger age, opposed to me. I learned patience from my dad. I learned all these traits growing up. So that's another thing too. In the beginning of our relationship, it wasn't perfect. I'm gonna tell you that it wasn't perfect.
It was not.
Especially when it came to conflict or those types of situations. It was really bumpy in the beginning. I could really tell you that. And even, to this day, no relationship is perfect. To this day, we still have our arguments and stuff like that, but we know how to control it now. Know, like, okay, this is what she's asking for. This is what she wants. This is what I'm asking for. This is what I want. And then we come together and communicate, because that's one of the most important things in a relationship, I believe. And in the beginning, we didn't really have that. We didn't really have the communication and stuff like that. We were just...
Oh my gosh, no. Like, literally, I would have a screaming match with you and you would just stay there like a wall. And to me, I thought, wow, this guy really doesn't care about me at all. And it was hard for us because I would just think that you didn't care enough, or you were just not like competent enough to tell me anything, or you were just too scared to say anything because you didn't want to ruin the relationship. And that wasn't even the case. It was like you were just letting me vent, letting me say what I needed to say, and half the time you were like, yeah, you're right, and there's nothing for me to say back to you. But because of those previous relationships, what I grew up watching, it was like, if you don't fight back, that's not love. And so that's something that you taught me, because I thought love was arguing until the person either was belittled, we cursed each other out, we brought back past. And no, it was just like, you need to vent, you need to let it out. I don't need to do anything else. Like, and then once you calm down, we can have the conversation, which was also like a huge adjustment period, because I was like, what do you mean, let me calm down? Like, I don't need to calm down. But it's true. Like, sometimes we just need one person to just be patient, let the person let it out. And then over time, those arguments become conversations.
Yeah. And that's kind of how we started to understand each other and how we both work. Like, I was a very I'm a very patient person, as she knows, and she was like the fire in the relationship, right? So she could, because of her past experiences and past relationships, so she always thought that I didn't love her because I didn't argue back or I didn't say anything. I just stayed quiet and listened. And then once she kind of just calmed down, then that's where, like, okay, we step in. What do you want? What do you need? I'm here. I was just there to listen. And a lot of times, gentlemen, that's kind of what you need to do. Just listen. Because a lot of times the woman just wants somebody to talk to, somebody to vent to. That's all it really is. Like, I know there's a lot of relationships out there that there's men that scream at their wives that are terrible husbands or boyfriends or whatever.
Oh my
and
gosh, yes.
and it doesn't get you anywhere, really. Like, I know it's hard to be patient when certain situations or certain things happen, but that's what you need to do and need to understand. Luckily, I already had that trait in me. I was a very patient person. But one thing, to tell you the truth, I wasn't very, I wouldn't really communicate as much. I wouldn't
my
really
gosh.
express my feelings. Yeah, the logo went away, but whatever.
Do you wanna?
It's fine. But I wouldn't really express my feelings as much. And that was kind of, in the beginning, that was kind of rough for her, because she would be like, well, you don't, there's like, what do you want? Like, you're not telling me what you want. You're not giving me the emotion, or like, or you're just like a fucking rock. You're literally just there. And we got to a point where we went into that kind of roommate phase as we're, dating and growing. And it was like, she was, is that bothering you?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
I just.
Okay, you could.
I mean, I don't just grab my phone. We can just. We'll pick up right now. Hold on.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to listen as a man. You can't really say a lot or get angry in the moment, because sometimes that's what happens. We just tend to just go off of our furious emotions when something's not going our way, and then that leads to either you throwing shit around, being very what's the word? Very
Like
aggressive.
aggressive.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
aggressive with your woman, or you just end up ignoring her in total, or going off and like talking to other women and, end up cheating and stuff. And that's where a lot of marriages end up divorced, or boyfriend girlfriends end up. Boyfriend girlfriend's a little different because that's not huge, but it's more marriages that end up in divorce, because all you had to really do is just sit there and listen, let her
And that
vent.
goes for women too. I mean, most of the time we feel like we're always right and what we say goes, and that's not the case, especially in a marriage. We have to understand when we're wrong. When we're wrong, and when we're overreacting over something so minuscule because we just want to be heard, or because we're tired of having the same argument. And we just have to also take a step back and be like, is this worth the fight? Is this worth us being angry? Is this worth like having the silent treatment? And half the time it's not, because, it's just sitting down and having the conversation, just saying, hey, this bothered me. I would really appreciate for you to, work on this and be better. And it would be good for both of us. And, as your partner is hearing you, making sure they also understand what they need to do, because in a marriage, it's two people, it's not one. And sometimes, we can do something that irritates them, or, we need to work on something as well. And we need to hear them and not take things offensively, and not, escalate it to a whole nother, a whole nother argument that's unnecessary. So it is both partners listening and respecting the other person, and acknowledging what needs to change and what needs to be better, so that both of you can thrive and you don't have the same argument over and over again. And we also can't have that aggression either, because there's some days where I'm like, I want to just smack him, but that's also disrespectful, even though, my slap versus his slap is not as hurtful. But the fact that it even got to that point is like, you need to really think about like, well, why did I even need need to do that to my partner, because there should be no type of violence in any scenario, whether it's yelling, cursing, throwing things, hitting one another, hitting, anything. It's like, let's, try to think about what can we do to avoid that, because half the time we don't need to get there. It's just a show. So that's kind of, picking back up picking, that's a terrible word. Bringing up what you had said about being patient, it's just remembering both of us need to be patient, because just because he's so wonderful and listens to me doesn't mean I need to be a raging, bee half the time.
Yeah, and I mean, to end it on that note before we move on to the next question, I always tell people that I'm a reflection of her and she's a reflection of me. If we're constantly fighting and we're constantly arguing in public or constantly doing things that don't benefit each other, then it's like our relationship is just going to fall, and then you're going to look like a bad person. She's going to look like a bad person. The relationship's going to look like shit. And at that point, it's like you really have to ask yourself, if she's really the one or if I'm really the one, it's like, do I want to, put my foot down and just grow? Or do I just want to be like, you know what, this isn't working, and split, right? You just have to think about those things and really reflect. And like how she was saying, it's like you really have to, before you react, you have to stop, wait. Think about what you're going to do and what you're going to say before you actually do it and say it. Because a lot of times we just react explosively if you're not a patient person, right? So that's one attribute that both the man and the woman that I would recommend trying to practice is just being patient. By when something bad happens or a situation happens, like just stop, breathe, think, okay, hold on. Right? And then see the bigger picture opposed to just seeing the problem.
Yeah, a lot of times we see red and we think go. And most of the time, half of our arguments probably could be resolved with just a simple, hey, blah, blah, blah. And in that tone versus being like, hey, you piece of, you did this. And so the tone also sets how your conversation is going to go. So if you take that moment to just breathe, take a step back and really be like, okay, I don't need to approach this in, this huge way. It's more of just like, okay, I took that second. So now we can be adults and have a conversation versus being children and, just having hissy fits and tantrums, which half the time I feel like a lot of us, or in the past, a lot of times that's what I would do. I would just be a child throwing a tantrum and hoping that my partner would like calm me down and take care of me and take me out for ice cream. And sure, I still love doing all that stuff, but I don't need to throw the tantrum. I just need to tell you what I need or what happened.
And it's as simple as that. She just needs to tell me what I need, and I need to tell her what I need. She just needs to tell me what I need
to do
for
me.
Then, for her. And then I need to tell her what she needs to do for me.
Exactly. That's open communication. Yeah. Honestly, it's the key to everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of marriages fail, because of that communication. There's other reasons as well too, but that's one of the big ones.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to our next question. I believe this one's under mindset, or yeah, right?
Yeah. Actually, this one's a really good one. How does your mindset impact the success of your marriage or relationships? Yeah.
How does my mindset impact the success?
Yeah, we can start with you, or if you need a second, I can start with me.
Yeah, I mean, if you have something on top of your head.
Yeah, so something that I feel like we've really learned this year, well, I guess this last year since, it's January, is your mindset is everything for your own personal life and for your relationship. Because if your mindset isn't where it needs to be, whether it's who do you want to be as a person, how do you want to live your life, how do you want to be a partner in a relationship, things are never going to be okay. And I know for me, I have to still work on this, is just having more positive mindset, because I, for a long time, was very negative. I saw the negative in everything because I thought if I think this way, then if something does go wrong, then I won't be as hurt or disappointed versus having that positive thinking and just thinking, everything will be fine. We'll get there when we get there. So for me, that's something that I want to work on because I know my negative mindset is affecting him and my friendships and my family and myself. And so just making sure that, we check in with ourselves and we really see what is it we want in life? What is it we want in our partner? How do we want to grow together? How do we want to change the way we think, the way we view things? Because in this life, things are constantly changing. And I feel like with you and I, if I have more positivity, then that brings him more light and he has less stuff to worry about. But if he's thinking like, well, she's depressed or she's having these thoughts, like, what am I doing wrong for her to feel that way? And especially when you're in a marriage, it's not just you anymore. Your partner feeds off of that energy. And so if I have more positivity and I bring more light to that, then that helps him grow as an individual as well. And then him being happy and him having light, he reflects that back onto me. And so it's just constant light. So I think mindset is just really crucial in a relationship because I feel like that's how we accomplish more things. And, because I want to be a great person for him because it's like, why would he want to be with a negative person all the time? Like, that's just, it's exhausting, clearly, like, really.
Yeah, and I mean, she's improved a lot since the start of our relationship because it was pretty negative. She, again, because of the way she grew up and stuff, and we can go over that on a different episode. But yeah, the way she grew up was completely different. So like the mindset she had in relationship and in life was very different to mine. But she's definitely improved like tremendously from when we first started dating. And I agree with you. I mean, the mindset is so important when it comes to not only personal, but in a relationship as well too. And I always tell people that if you're not good, nothing else is going to be good. If your mindset isn't good, if your body isn't good, physically, mentally, emotionally, you're not good, then everything else around you, or if you're trying to build a marriage or a partnership, that's not going to be good as well too. So it's always important to just self-reflect and focus on you. It's not that you're being selfish. Like this is the way I see it. It's you first. Well, God first. And then it's you first, and then it's your wife. And then everything else comes after. When we start having kids, then it's my kids after my wife. Because again, if you put your kids first, or if you put something else in front of your partner, the partner's not the marriage or the relationship is just gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
You always have to make sure that you're good, because then your wife will be good, and then your kids will be good. Mm-hmm. That's the way you should structure the pillars of building a household and a family. And yeah, I mean, you always want to make sure that you're positive. Doesn't matter what happens in life. It doesn't matter if the world is ending. You always have to see something positive in it, right? And that's what really helped us grow our relationship as well too. We just started kind of, when things didn't really go our way, we're like, well, maybe this happened because this is supposed to happen. Like a little backstory of this. I kind of lost a little bit of revenue this year with the business and stuff, but it also, I was busy all the time, and she would know I'd be editing all the time. I'd be just super busy all the time. So I didn't really have time to do personal projects or things that we wanted to do together. Mm-hmm. And then now I see that as a blessing, because now it's like, okay, well, now I have time to focus on this, focus on other projects that we have together, focus on doing other things to help build our brand and ourselves as well too. So that's what I mean by, like, you always have to see the positive in negative situations.
Yeah, I mean, one thing for sure that I have been so blessed with you is that positive thinking, because I'm pretty sure if both of us had the sky is falling mentality, that negative thought, our relationship would be so horrible. And I don't even think we would have lasted this long, because taking that example of what happened this year, we were so reliant on this income you were getting, the momentum you had, and we took advantage of that. And unfortunately, things happened that we were not prepared for. But because you had that don't worry, we're going to be fine. Like, we're going to keep going, because I started falling apart. I was panicking. I was thinking, this is all your fault. Like, and I started using that blame that I thought that I used to always do with you. Because when we first started dating, I was always like, well, I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This is clearly your fault. Like, it's your business who lost the revenue. Like, it's you, it was your idea and I followed you. And so I try to make sure I take a step back, because it's not just you. This is your problem. This is our problem. This is our marriage. And so that is something with the having the positive mindset. It's like, well, how are we going to fix this? How are we going to move forward? And you bringing me back that light, because of your positive mindset, I was able to just be like, you know what, you're right. Like, we need to just figure it out. We're going to keep going. We're healthy. We have a roof over our head. I have a good job now. And so let's just, we'll figure it out. But having that light really helped me see the end of the tunnel, because I just saw dark and I just thought negative. And it started bringing back that like horrible thing that I thought I overcame. And I'm clearly still working on it. And so that's why it's really good for us both to be practicing positive mindsets, because there's always going to be one person in the relationship that will need it. And then there's going to be a time where you're going to need it. And if I'm strong, then I'm going to be like, don't worry about it. I'm going to pull you with me. So that's why having a positive mindset amongst each other, and just remembering like all the blessings you have, all the good that you have in your life, because we tend to forget something bad happens. We are so fixated on that and trying to figure out, well, whose fault is it? And that's always like, no, it's not that it's one person's fault. It's just an unfortunate circumstance that came, but we're going to be fine. We're going to move forward. We're going to keep going. We're going to be fine, because why? Because we have each other, and because we have ambition and goals and that positive thinking to really bring us out. It's not like we're always going to be like delusional and be like, we're so great. No, but we're also not going to be Chicken Little running around saying the sky is falling when, we're still okay. And we can still make it through this as long as we just keep going.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, this is why it's like yin and yang, right? Like, she has her strong attributes and her weak attributes. I have my strong attributes and my weak attributes. My strong attributes complement her weak attributes, and her weak attributes complement my strong attributes. And that's how it should be in a relationship. You should kind of figure out like, okay, my wife is really good at doing all these things, but I'm really bad at doing all these things. But she complements, like, what can she do to help me grow? And then vice versa. Like, I'm good at doing all these things, but she's not good at doing all these things. What can I do to help her grow? And that's how it should be all the time. And positive mindset was one of my, strong attributes. And I was always positive whenever anything happened in life, whether it was good or bad. And again, like she was saying, she didn't have that positive mindset, but I helped her, start seeing more of that positivity in situations. And now she's starting to see it and understand and realize it, which now is going to help her, because that was one of her weaknesses, help me grow now when I'm in a bad situation, or I'm not in when I'm in a dark place, right? So that's kind of like what you guys need to do as far as a relationship goes. Or even if you're single and you're looking to, find somebody, kind of ask yourself these questions of like, okay, well, what do I want in a partner? What do I truly want in a partner? Well, like, what traits do I want? How do I want to grow? Where do I want to be in 5 years with this partner? Those are questions you should always ask yourself, especially as you're getting older. If you're in your 20s, it's not the end of the world. But once you start getting to, those 30s, which is where we're at, it's like, okay, like, it's like, okay, what is it that you want?
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the best things I can tell you from this question. It's just something that you need to really reflect and practice on, because positivity is one of those things that it's going to get you far, and it's going to help you just get through those tough times when shit's not going your way, right? But we could go to the next question in the next list.
Oh, this one's going to be a little spicy. I don't know. We'll see. How do you approach building trust and maintaining it over years?
Yeah, I don't think I'm good.
He doesn't want to talk about it because he knows he messed up in the beginning.
I'm kidding. We've moved past all that stuff.
Oh, espérate. We haven't even started this conversation.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, that one, how do you build trust? Like I said, all weird. How do you build trust?
Spell it out.
Yeah, see, she got me all nervous with this. She got me all nervous with this question now.
Because he knows this was a hard one. So a little background. We did say our relationship wasn't perfect always.
Yeah. And we did say this podcast is raw, so we're literally going to be raw.
So the nice thing about, I think, you and I is that we can kind of go into the past and have these conversations, and I'm over it. You know, but
you better be over
I am. For the most part, I'm over it. So it took time for us to build trust because in the first year, I want to say the first 9 months we were dating, we were on a trip in Aruba that is in the Caribbean. And I caught him messaging some girl. And they were gonna meet up or something. He claimed it was like a personal training thing, and
I was doing personal training.
At that time he was like personal training, and so obviously I knew he was training women and whatnot. But this was not just personal training. There was some like flirting, and and I caught it while we were on a vacation. And when we got back from that vacation, he ended up wanting to break up, and I guess at that time it was just too much for him to deal with. And so I really lost all faith in you at that moment. And then he started dating some other girl. Mm-hmm. And then I started dating. And so we were kind of apart for a few months that first time. And I think the way that you realized that I was the one for you was, I mean, I don't know, you saw me with someone else?
So a little... I guess it's kind of like out of a movie scene. Because, so that happened. And, I kind of realized that she was the actual one for me after going into dating some other person. And then I was asking myself, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this isn't what I want. So I ended up just completely ditching that whole thing. And then a few weeks went by. I believe you came back from, was it?
It was before I left.
It was before you left to Chicago, right?
It was like right after my birthday.
Yeah, so she was kind of seeing some guy, and I was a couple days later when I kind of realized that like she's the one I want in my life. And so I drove over to her house, and I had a letter, I was like expressed all my feelings in that letter and how I felt. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go knock on the door and give her this letter and just tell her exactly how I feel. So I went, drove, parked, walking down the little hill, going around, and then I see her car, and then I see someone else's car.
Well, actually, before that, we had a conversation that night. I think you had came in.
Did I?
We had so you came to talk to me, and I don't know if you were trying to get back with me or we were just trying to have a conversation, and I was expecting company a little bit after you were already there.
Oh, yeah. I think we had a conversation. Nobody was there. I went because
he was trying to win me back.
I was trying. Exactly. You're right. I was trying to win you back and express kind of what I was feeling. And then you're like, well,
I was kind of not having it because I was already.
She was like, no, I'm done.
Dating.
I'm done with this motherfucker. Like, she was like, done.
Yeah.
So
you don't leave me and expect to come back just like that.
So that's kind of what happened. And then I left, and then I was like, no, I have to fight. I have to, because this is the woman I want. I want to be with her. So I wrote this letter, and then that's when I came back later in that day. It was at night. And then that's where I walked down the hill, and then I saw her car, and I saw someone else's car. And I was like, huh, that's weird. So then I walk over to the door to go knock so I can give her this letter. And all I hear is a guy's voice. I was literally at the door like this, about to knock, like about to literally knock, like an inch away from the door, about to knock. And I hear a guy's voice, and I'm like, huh. And then he says, kiss me. And then I'm like, his heart just blew up and tore, and I was like, damn.
Yeah.
That hit me hard. And I was like, I don't even remember if I think I left the letter in the mailbox that was on the door.
I
think
think
I
you
did.
did
I think I
too.
did.
I think I got it the next
Yeah,
day. Yeah.
because I think I told you that I left something for you in the mailbox.
Yeah.
But literally out of a movie. Like if it was
All
rain,
you so
if
at
if
that
it was raining, it would have been like even worse. It would have been
and
like,
I heard the car. So he had this like really loud
Yeah.
car back then too. And so I knew he was there because I heard the car leave and I was like, what the heck? Like, what are you doing here? So anywho, fast forward. So after that night, I started thinking about obviously wanting to get back with you. I took some time and it didn't work out with this other person. And so I allowed us to come back as friends. And so we started dating again. And
this is
then,
after you came out from Chicago, no?
yeah, I had taken a trip and I got back. And then I want to say we got back together. We were together for a few months, but then something in the relationship, I was still hurt about it and thinking like, you know what, like I don't need this dude. And so then we ended up breaking up months later again. And in that month, we both had some time to reflect and be like,
Oh, that's when we went to Denmark.
that's when, I was
Yeah.
in Denmark. It's funny, I go on these trips and I have this clarification. But so we thought about it and then we came back. And so it was like he broke up with me the first time. I broke up with him the second time. And after that second time, when we got back together, we really were just like, you know what? Let's have the conversation. We brought up like the thing that happened in Aruba with, you messaging a girl and then dating another girl. And then we brought up, me dating another guy. And so that I feel like really kind of helped us both to kind of gain back our confidence because I know I lost a lot of that when you left me and you were dating other girls because that was like my whole experience with dating men. It was like they would cheat, they would have other women. And so that, I guess third time's the charm, that we got back together was where we really just like, we're like, we are going to have trust. We are not going to be looking at our phones. We're not going to be doing this. Like we want this, right? Because we both had broken up with each other. And so we're like, I want this, you want me. And after that, to be honest, we just gave each other the trust. Like you allowed me to go out with my friends.
We allowed each other to give the ability to trust each other. And I feel like that's what a lot of relationships don't do after like something happens with trust is like they're not willing to kind of talk and then work through it and then be like, okay, I'm going to give you that trust
Well,
again.
and we also were very respectful. Like I know when I would go out without you, I tried to make sure, I was dressed respectfully. I wasn't putting myself in situations where I would be, mingling with men or, in a room full of men. I would be messaging you throughout the night. I would tell you exactly where I was going, what time I'd be home. If I needed you to come get me, you would come get me, and vice versa. Like we had that open communication because a lot of the times after going through something like that where, you see something on someone's phone, you automatically have to be thinking, I have to check it, every month or so. And then another thing that we did too was when we asked to look at each other's phones, we handed it over. We were literally like, yeah, here you go. Because that also helped for me. That helped me know that he wasn't doing anything wrong. He wasn't doing anything bad. And after a while, I think within that first year, I stopped asking to see your phone.
Yeah, it was just
we knew
like
each other's
second nature.
passwords. Yeah, it was like
just second nature. It's like, oh, she needs my phone for something. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, and I would like, secretly I'd be like, can I borrow your phone for something? And he would let me every single time. He never was like, no, let me look at it. Like he never gave me that. And it was the same thing. Like if he needed my phone, I wouldn't be like, oh, grab my phone. And that really, I think, helped you and I because a lot of times trust is knowing that you don't have to worry about that person and what they're doing. And like even until this day and age, people are always just like, oh, like how are you able to go out without him, or how you allow him to go do this and that? And it's like, well, it's not allowing that person. it's being okay with them having freedom too, because
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna be together 24/7. And that's just exhausting mentally to be
Yeah.
always constantly worrying that he's cheating on me. And if that's the case, well, then why am I with this person? Like, I also have to value myself and be like, I am worth so much. And if he's going to be cheating on me, well, then let him go and, find someone else, because there's always going to be someone out there who you don't have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a time when you're in a relationship or you're in a marriage that you don't worry about not trusting them. You worry about them dying. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even worry about this dude like cheating on me half the time, because I worry more that he's going to die before me and I'm going to have to start all over again and have to find a new love. And so once you get to that point, that trust is so solid that nothing can break it. And I remember even like having people tell me they saw him downtown and he looks like his brother. So I always was like, that's probably false. Like, let me message him myself and ask him, were you here? Were you not? Versus just being like, where the hell are you? And why the hell are you with this hoochie? And it's like, instead of assuming the negative thing, have the conversation. Just be like, did you do this? No. Okay, cool. Were you there? No. Okay, cool. If you have evidence, that's obviously really
Well, it's
amazing.
different. And I mean, you should know the signs of like somebody who's like doing some sketchy shit behind your back, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like one given is obviously if they don't want to give you their phone for you to just look at something. Like if they completely refuse to give you the phone,
red flag.
then it's like, yeah, that's a huge red flag. If they're constantly like on their phone and then like when you come by, they like turn it off or put it away, or they're like turn the screen so they don't want you to see something, like those are red flags as well too. Like understand the signs and understand like, okay, well, like there's something going on, like, and then have that conversation. Don't just go to the complete negative abyss.
Yeah, well, and move on, because I just feel like a lot of times the trust is broken when you can't move on either. Because if you're constantly thinking, I don't trust him, how can I have trust with him? Like, he's always doing something bad. Well, then why are you with this person?
Yeah.
If you're constantly thinking that way, then you're never going to grow out of it, and you're never going to trust them.
And the relationship is just going to fall apart, or you're just going to be suffering in the relationship because they're doing some shit that they shouldn't be doing, and you're just there because you just don't want to leave, or because you feel like you don't deserve more. But you always deserve more. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
And that's one thing that you have to really understand, understanding your value, like as a person and who you are and what you feel like you deserve, right? Like obviously, like don't go fucking over the completely top where like, oh, this is what I deserve, because if you think you deserve a multi-trillionaire man and that's going to give you the whole world,
remember, you have to be worthy of that multi-trillionaire man
well,
too.
that and like 6 foot fucking blue eyes, whatever the fuck, like there's a very, very small percentage of those types of men.
Yeah, you have to go move to Switzerland to find something like that.
Like just understand as a person, like your value and what you feel like you deserve, and that's it. And then communicate, because communication builds trust. It's as simple as that, like. And that's kind of where we'll leave that topic at.
Yeah.
It's just, communication builds trust. I think that's the most important thing. If there's anything you learn from this, it's communication.
Literally, that is the foundation of our marriage, is communication.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to communicate, because half the time a conversation is all you need. And if you don't talk, you're going to find someone else to talk to, and that's going to be even worse. And we can actually touch base on that on a different podcast.
Yeah, we could go over different topics and certain topics in different podcasts and stuff. So the next episode that we're going to be going on to just is going to be about kind of how we became us, how we grew together, and our love story, how our love story began. So if you guys are interested in that podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe to this podcast. Turn on those notifications, stay updated for when our next podcast comes out, because you do not want to miss this love story. It's
so cute, because he literally got his dream girl.
Pretty much. Pretty much. And yeah, you guys do not want to miss this next episode. So just make sure you guys like, subscribe, turn on those notifications for us. We'd really appreciate that so much. Follow both of us on our social media platforms. We'll put them right down here somewhere. You'll see them around here. But don't forget to follow us, guys. And we will see you guys on the next episode. So
Bye.
stay classy, guys.